that which is not of the light is coming up for reckoning. Lemuria was all about the light. We're coming full circle in about 26,000 years into that level of light. From 2012 to 2032 is where the light goes up a curve. This next 7 years is ramping up more and more and more. So what is the light? What is that about? The main thing that's toppling is corruption. This is what's falling away because this isn't the light. It's not just happening with us. The planet is evolving too, where things are out of balance. This is exciting. The darkness just gives us an opportunity to bring even more light into it. We're raising our vibration. Love's got everything to do with it. I take my direction straight from above, and they say there are just two spiritual laws. You have access to this abundance. You just need to know how to tap into it. The universe is actually within you. Each and every one of you is already psychic. One of the lines that's been coming through from my spiritual team a lot lately, which I keep saying, is so we are in 2025, which my spiritual team call the year of light. All right, so what is the light? What is that about? So that's kind of where we link in then with Lemuria, which was all about the light. So we're kind of coming full circle in about 26,000 years. We're coming back into that level of light. So let's come back 3 spaces. So we've got this light has been coming in into the planet more and more over the last few decades, okay? So we will have heard, those of you as old as me will have been hearing this since the 80s, that we've got this 5D, fifth dimension, you know, that we're opening up to all sorts of weird and wacky things. And it's all building and it's all kicking off in 2012 and all the rest of it. So we've all heard about that. Well, I have, because I was brought up with all this stuff. But basically what we've had since 2012 is that the light has been increasing. And the light, what is the light? Light is purely an absence of darkness, isn't it? You put the light into something and it absorbs the darkness. So what we've got is light is everything that's seen, it's everything that's light-hearted, it's a higher energy, it's high vibration, whereas the absence of light is the fear, it's the disempowerment, it's the control, it's all of the heavier stuff. So what we've got is the light has been increasing over the last few decades, but from 2012 to 2032, that 20-year period is where the light, it kind of goes up a curve. So it was going gently, and then it starts to really go up, all right? So you imagine that curve that was just sort of gently filtering in bit at a time, and then we get this big curve coming up, all right? So here we are now, just entering 2025. So this started, if you like, this big shift in this big increase started in 2012. So you think, well, in that 20-year period, we've only got kind of 7 years to go. So we're more than halfway. So we start to see the light that really came in. Well, 2020 was a big shift that opened everybody up to other possibilities because of everything that was going on in the world. You know, people started thinking about, is this the right job for me? Do I align with this? Is this the right marriage, relationship? Am I in the right place? Can I work from home? Why am I living in the city? All of these questions started shifting people into possibilities that were always there, but they didn't see them before. So now they start to see. The light helps us to see. You can't see in the dark, can you? We start to see more and more. So we start to see possibilities. We start to see potential. And equally with the light, we start to see more of the darkness. You know, if we imagine, if you're wearing a black coat and it gets splattered with mud, you can't really see it. But if you're wearing a white coat and it gets splattered with mud, you see every little speck. So as the light is coming in more and more, we start to see all those specks and kind of, oh, that's not good, and that needs to go, and that needs sorting. All of that might feel very disruptive, and for some people, oh, really negative and scary. My job is to help people to see this isn't scary. This is exciting. This is amazing. This is the best opportunities you can have. And, I'm known for my positivity because, I'm in a higher vibration. I see the darkness and I kind of go, okay, well, that just gives us an opportunity to bring even more light into it, to shine the light on it and to sort things out. So, we've had this, and astrologers will say, we were in the age of this and now we're shifting to the age of that and everything else. But this next 7 years is ramping up more and more and more. So it's been happening really strongly since 2025. But as we got into 23 and 24, things started to open up more and more. And now we're stepping into 2025. So we're moving from the solar plexus, which is our center of power. It's all about power. Up into the heart, which is all about love. So we're coming up, we're raising our vibration. So when we see through the eyes of love, and, what is love? We're talking compassion and awareness and acceptance and non-judgment. And we start to see more and more what works and what doesn't. And we want to live from the heart. We all want to live from the heart. We want to love ourselves. We want to love our connections, partners, families, whatever. We want to love life. We want to love the job we do. But we've been in this space of, I'm not supposed to love my job. I just go into work, do what I got to do, get the money, pay the mortgage, pay the rent. What's love got to do with it, as Tina Turner would say? And it's saying love's got everything to do with it. You have a right to love your job. You have a right to look forward to going to work. It doesn't have to be drudgery and misery. So if you're in a job that you dread going into work, that every Sunday night, let's say you work Monday to Friday, that every Sunday night you feel your energy plummet because you've got to go to work tomorrow, that is your indicator. This is the time to find another job that I actually enjoy, And there are possibilities. So what are those possibilities? So we're opening up. So basically, to answer your question, 2025 is the year of light. More and more light coming in, infusing into the heart, into our desire for more. I want to love more. I want to laugh more. I want to enjoy, be in the joy more. And does that mean, I'm going to live a utopian life? Yeah, let's be realistic. Okay, we've still got the ups and downs and the challenges. But on the whole, can we say, I like what I do and I enjoy it? I like who I'm with and I enjoy being with them. I like where I live. If we can't say that, then change is needed. But as human beings, we tend to avoid change because it's scary, hairy. And so we can kind of get stuck. And so this is the time where we're saying that light is infusing into the fear, showing me my fear and showing me a way through my fear and out the other side. Because all change can be uncomfortable, but it can also be exciting and wondrous and open up to all sorts of possibilities. So I invite your audience to just ask themselves one little question for a minute. Who am I now compared with who I was at the beginning of 2025 before the pandemic kicked off? What have I changed in myself? How have I grown? What has shifted in my life? And each and every one of you will be recognizing at this point shifts that you've made in your relationships, in yourself, the way you've grown. So we can look back over the last 4 years and say, that was horrible. We can say it's challenging, but we can say, look how I've grown. Look at where I am now. And if this is where I am after 4 years, imagine where I'd be after 10. All right. So we can start to see it as a staircase, ladder going up higher and higher. When we look at somebody who's high, and I don't necessarily mean from drugs or anything, although we associate high with drugs. You can get high on life. You can get high on love. We know that one. And so, we can be on the cloud 9 because something exciting has happened. I want to invite your audience to say, I choose to spend as much of my time on cloud 9 as I possibly can. And once I kind of get used to being on cloud 9, let's go up to cloud 99. Let's just allow it to keep going up, okay? So yes, there's challenges. We'll fall out with people and things will get on our nerves and we'll have bad days, But it's about saying, okay, on the whole, life is better than it was. And I feel better and more empowered than I did. And even when we have those challenges, we're more easily able to deal with them without it stressing us out of our brains. I have challenges now that I tell you, 30 years ago, that would have had me in a complete mess. And now I kind of go, oh, okay, it's a bit of a pain in the body, but I'll deal with it. It'll be okay. I'll figure it out. So we step into more resilience and more awareness of life isn't meant to be completely on a neutral level all of the time. Well, we have ups, we have downs. What we want to do is come back to neutral as quickly as we can into that sort of stability. But where that neutral was, we want the neutral to be up here a bit higher, on a higher vibration. Yeah.
It's really interesting because I feel like last year, or 2024 in particular, for a lot of people that I coach / a lot of people that I interviewed, it almost felt like, there's probably a better way to describe this, but I'm going to go for it, which is a lot of our stuff was coming to the surface. And by stuff, I mean some of the darkest stuff was just coming to the surface. And I don't know if we were collectively moving through a bunch of karma, or whether it was just, each individual that I happened to interface with was moving through a bunch of karma. Could have gone either way. But it felt like almost there was this purification that was happening, which was like all the stuff was coming to the surface, ready for us to kind of almost scrape it off. And it was like you've been describing, it was a real opportunity. And I love this metaphor of the white coat with the black specks on it. That was really powerful to receive just then, because it's like, yeah, actually, there's a lot of light coming through. And so you can actually, it puts in relief all the darkness that is sort of like, And it's interesting because for those that are conscious, I feel like particularly at this time, like this audience, your audience, the people tuning into this podcast, sometimes it feels even extra stretchy because you end up psychoanalyzing your process as you're going through it at times. And I've noticed actually that can be a bit of a sticking point. So the nature of my question was actually going to be this: cling versus courage, because we sort of know what we know and we end up having to sort of we end up naturally sort of clinging to what we know. But, as this shift is happening, there's so much resilience that is, well, it is our innate resilience, but it feels like we're being called upon to be resilient, to sort of shift through all of this stuff that's getting flicked up onto the white coat. How do we step into more courage, in your opinion, at this particular time?
Well, first of all, it's to recognize what is the fear, what is the resistance, what is the block, what is the frustration. So don't dismiss it, don't rise above it and ignore it. Okay, what we resist persists. So, for example, in 2024, for me, I was desperate to move house. So there's, first of all, your word desperate. Desperate is a low vibration energy. I really wanted to go. So that is also resistance. I was resisting where I was. I didn't want to be where I was. I wanted to move location and home. Didn't like where I was. And so I had to sit with it. I wanted to move within 2 or 3 months, and it took 8 months. And it was hard. What it did was it brought up for me quite a few different things. So impatience. I am not a patient person. Me and patience, we weren't really very good friends. So I had to learn some patience. So there were days I just wanted to scream, why is this being delayed? I want to go, I want to go. So patience was part of what was being stretched in me. The other thing that was being stretched was the loss of control. I can't make this happen. I can't make it happen any faster. And I want to make it happen. And I'm a very positive, action-oriented person. And, if I put the work in, I can make things happen. I couldn't make this happen. I was in a chain and I had no control. Now that was scary for me, and many of us are control freaks. Recognize it. I'll hold my hands up. I'm a bit of a control freak, but it doesn't serve me. It doesn't serve me. And so that was coming up to say, does this control thing serve you? Because you can't make something happen that you want to happen. It's beyond your control. So can you release resistance and let go and allow? Now we're talking about surrender. Now any of the masters we'll talk about surrender. It's part of enlightenment, where you allow the flow, you let go and flow, you trust in the universe, you trust in the process, you trust in God, you trust in divine timing. And I had to really step into that and totally surrender to it. Now, that's one part of it, surrendering to it. So whether it's like for me moving house, or whether it's for you wanting a new job and it's just not coming, or wanting love and it's just not coming, or wanting to get out of a relationship you're in and you can't find a way out, it's stretching all of these things. And so at the end of it, you end up where much more advanced. My patience has gone up massively. My resilience has gone up, increased, right? Because I wasn't happy where I was. So I said to myself, well, I can either choose, and this is the thing, the choice, I can choose to be annoyed every day for the next God knows however months, or I can say, this is where I am right now, which is clearly where I'm meant to be. So I'm going to enjoy it as much as I can. I'm going to find the joy in what I already have, knowing there's something better coming, and knowing it is coming, and just trusting that where I am right now is where I'm meant to be. So that sort of surrender and letting go enabled me to really know myself better, to strengthen a huge amount of different values within me. And then the rewards come. It's like the universe will reward you when you go through these challenges, but also you're rewarding you, because I'm a much stronger person for it. But also it was tapping into my vulnerable side. And that's something that we tend to try and squash. Strong is good, vulnerable is bad. No, we want to balance them, because we can be strong within our vulnerabilities and we can be vulnerable within our strengths. And what it does, it makes us human. So embracing that vulnerability is also important. So to answer your question, and I always go around the houses, sorry, it's kind of the way I do it, that,
Oh, please don't apologize. Yeah.
how can we, grow from this? How do we sort of deal with the splatters on the coat? It's to feel the fear and do it anyway. It's to allow the feelings to come up and to recognize them and own them and sit with them. And then ask yourself, does this serve me? Is there anything I can do to release this? What can I do to help myself? And what we're doing is we're raising more into the heart. This is about love for self and life. So we come into this heart center more. Do I love myself enough to let this go? Because it's making me miserable, and it will affect my health, and it will affect my energy and my well-being. So can I just sit with it and recognize it and be okay with it, and then allow it to gently move? And it will.
Hey there, Inspired Souls. I just wanted to take a quick second to thank all of you that are subscribed to the channel. Everything you see around here is powered and empowered by your subscription to this channel. Promoting love, positivity, and wisdom around the planet wouldn't be possible the way that it is without your love and support. And to all of you that haven't yet subscribed, please do take a moment. As I'm saying the word subscribe, the button below is lighting up in the colors of the Inspired Evolution. Please hit that subscribe button, hit the bell notification icon. It helps with everything we're doing here. Thank you so much for your love and support. With that, back to Julie in today's podcast. It's really interesting because I can feel this energy of because we're so used to just when, especially solar plexus, this dominating sort of power energy. And you said, the shift is coming into the heart. And, this solar plexus is very good at sort of like this determinative sort of like that can go there and this can go here. And I can discern, there's so much discernment in there. Whereas the heart is this all embracing kind of power. It's a very different power structure. And trying to get your way from to solar plexus to heart, it's like what got you here isn't what's going to get you there. And that can be such a leap for an individual to make.
Absolutely. But it's also understanding that the solar plexus is our center of power, but it's also our center of joy and trust. Okay. So before we can rise from the solar plexus into the heart, we've got to master each of those areas. So what we've been working through is our sense of empowerment, because we've spent thousands of years disempowered. So we're learning how to be powerful, to own our own power, to take responsibility for our own life. All of that is my power. I'm not waiting for somebody outside of myself to fix me or my life. I'm stepping into, this is my life, this is my destiny, I'm taking action. So we're coming more and more into our power. So what we've been doing with that over the last few years is increasing that sense of empowerment. But alongside that, the solar plexus is joy and fun and play. Now, again, for thousands of years, it's not been about have fun. It's been about work hard, be sensible, be responsible. So we've been learning to balance it up with having some joy, having some play, realizing the importance between work and home, connections, finding time for that reprioritizing. That's all been part of it. And then that third part, that trust. So how can I come into my heart if I can't trust? Okay, so I've got to kind of get those ducks in a row before I can move up into my heart. And that was part of it for me last year, was just trusting the process. I knew I was going and not losing hope because it hasn't happened yet. Is it going to not happen? There was no doubt this is happening. It's just delayed. So I'm in the trust that I will be where I'm meant to be at the time I'm meant to be there. And other things that I wanted to do, I wanted to get on with doing some live events and more teaching. And it's like, I can't really set anything up because I don't know when I'm moving. And it could be, June, and it might be October, it might be Christmas. I can't set anything up. So I felt like, right, okay, I'm in a holding pattern and I need to stay there in the trust for all that time. So at the end of the year, I check in with myself, my empowerment has increased, my center of letting go and trust has increased, my center of patience and resilience has increased. And as soon as we came into 2025, within a week, it's like, go, 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 set up those events now, get on with it. I'm like, oh, okay. So we want to recognize it all and say, before I can move into the heart, without trust, I can't live in the heart. Because trust and love, they're one.
It's really interesting because I feel like, and I know I'm sort of double clicking on a point twice, but it feels like the societal structures almost don't support us in systems. Like, they don't encourage us to trust, though. Do you know what I mean? Like, the noise around us generally is like, oh, come on, just stay stuck. Like, I don't know if it's just me. I sort of sees that everywhere, but you're not encouraged to trust. And so it's interesting, encouraged, courage, trust. Yeah. But, you're not encouraged to trust in some ways. And yet that seems to be such a big body of work that you're espousing at this particular moment in time. I want to double click on that, but then also it does seem like, I don't know if everybody's felt this at this particular point of year, or maybe it's just me, but it does feel like what you just described, like 2024 and 2025, particularly at this turn, because it's like one was just another day and another was another day. I remember one of my dearest shaman friends who's actually passed away, rest in peace, but one of his first teachings for me was like, Amrit, the birds don't know Tuesday from Friday, and yet Friday's your favorite day of the week. And I was like, it's very true, So New Year's 31st, but then also the 1st of January 2025. But it does seem like there has been such a turn of the tide, even in just the few days that we sort of stepped into this new year. So there seems to be a massive shift. There seems to be like a collective, I don't know, people still feeling very stuck. And yet the trust piece is like, therein lies such a body of work for each individual to step into.
Yeah, it's a natural evolution of us moving forward. In the past has been because we didn't trust and because we didn't have courage, we would stay where it didn't really serve us. In other words, we weren't very happy or fulfilled. Because it was safer than the risk of making change. So the way that we've generally evolved over the last, hundreds of years, is that we'll only make that change if we're so unhappy where we are that it can't be any worse, so I may as well go for it. But we don't have to evolve through that much suffering. It's kind of asking yourself, like, how unhappy am I? Say, in my job, how unhappy am I? In the old days, I'd have to have been kind of 90% unhappy to take a risk on that 10% of potential. Whereas if we imagine that's come down more like 50-50, it's because our desire for more is increasing. But the problem we've got underneath that is this conditioning of asking for more is bad, it's greedy, it's ungrateful, be grateful with your lot. But this was my parents and grandparents' kind of genre and generation was be grateful you've got a job at all. Doesn't matter if you're miserable there, you're going to stay there for life till you retire. Our generation is like, if I'm not happy, I'm out of here and I'm finding something else, you know. So we're shifting towards that, and it can swing too far the other way and then it finally sort of settles somewhere in the middle. And that's what we're coming into. So people in 2024, like me wanting to move, I'm in the wrong place. But Spirit would say there's no such thing as the wrong place. You're where you're meant to be. You know, that I knew that I wanted to move somewhere else. That I will shift when it's meant to shift, and then things will unfold. And there is no real timing. And if I felt, you know, but I'm supposed to be getting on with teaching and I can't, well, that'll all catch up this year and next year. So don't worry about it. It'll all kind of come good in the end. But also those things that we've learned from that resilience of being held there a little bit. Sometimes circumstances are against you. You can't do anything about it. And you need to assess that. Is it that circumstances are against me? Or is it that I've given up and I'm not trying? And I don't mean that to sound as critical as it came across, but we give up. You know, we've lost hope. We get to a point of like, what's the point? I've applied for 100 jobs. I got 2 interviews and I didn't get either of them. I'll just stay where I am. We go into that giving up, and it's completely understandable. But if we can turn the thinking around, the perspective to say, maybe it just wasn't the right time. Or maybe it was the wrong industry that I was trying to apply for, that there's something better for me. So let's not go into that hopeless, helpless, I'll just stay where I am then. Let's look at alternatives. Let's look at other options.
It's really interesting because what I'm actually hearing at this particular juncture in times of change, actually the risk is to not take a risk, which is really interesting because it's, yeah. Sorry, that just landed really profoundly at my end.
One of the lines that's been coming through from my spiritual team a lot lately, which I keep saying and in a lot of the readings I'm doing, is, do you love yourself enough to ... So, you know, I'm unhappy in my job, I'm unhappy in my relationship, I'm unhappy in my home, whatever it is. Do you love yourself enough to say, I deserve something better? If this was your best friend who was unhappy in their job, would you be encouraging them to find something else? And the answer is probably yes, you know? So why aren't you encouraging yourself? And as you pointed out, the word encourage, I know it's spelled E-N, but to be in courage. Courage is that boldness. It's that, you know, I can feel afraid, but I'm not going to let the fear stop me. I'm going to recognize the fear. Why am I scared? Because it's the unknown. All right. And we feel safe if something is known. But if we want that shift, sometimes we step into the unknown. You know, even if you're moving home to somewhere you don't know what your new neighbours are going to be like. You don't know what problems there might be. There is always an element of the unknown. But it's saying to yourself, do I love myself enough to take that risk that could potentially take me into my best life?
Hi there, guys. I wanted to take a quick moment just to introduce you to my one-to-one coaching. It's something that I deeply love doing. As you can tell, conscious conversation is such a massive part of my life. And having one-to-one, deep, meaningful conversations with people where I get to show up as your brother or as the coach or as your mentor has been such a gift for me personally, and a gift for lots of the people that I have supported on the journey of living a more spiritually empowered, spiritually powered, spiritually aligned life. You don't have to take my word for it. Here's some examples of people all around the world that have experienced profound transformations through this coaching experience.
Amrit is a fantastic coach.
In a few sessions, he got to a depth that I'd only experienced before working with certain medicines. And
he's gone through a lot of the struggles that you're probably facing. And Amrit's been a really strong, supportive figure in my journey.
In control of myself.
I'm kinder to myself.
I actually have that vision and a purpose.
I do feel like I'm a better version of myself already.
Amazing energy.
He was easy to talk to, which made me easy to trust him.
Working with Amrit at 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning, and really I was bouncing out of bed.
Whenever I get off the calls with Amrit, best money we've ever spent.
I would not recommend him because I don't want everyone to know about him and then I won't be able to book him. If he gets too busy, I won't get my turn.
I would say absolutely.
There's no way you can work with Amrit for a period of time without being transformed.
So if you're considering him as a coach, do not hesitate because you won't be disappointed.
Alrighty, so hopefully that's inspiring your evolution onwards and upwards. And if you are so inspired to evolve, you can book in a one-to-one call with me directly at www.amrit.coach/life. And guys, if I can say so myself, I do think this is something quite special. Most people that I see building things online don't really work with people this deeply, this intimately, one-on-one as things start to grow, just because it is so time intensive. And yet I'm so deeply passionate about the transformation that comes from one-to-one coaching that just isn't available anywhere else. It would be my absolute honor and a pleasure to support your spiritual awakening, your spiritual path, your spiritual unfoldment. It is my life's work. I look forward to seeing you in the call. Back to today's podcast. 2032. You said we're going through quite a shift, 2012 to 2032. Obviously, we don't have a crystal ball, but what do you see sort of coming forward at that particular point in time when we're in the last 7 years of this 20-year sort of cycle, like you said, and a lot is ramping up? Any forecasts?
Well, ramping up is right and speeding up is right. So, if we look at the shift that we've had since 2012 to where we are now, in 12 years, it's been fairly steep, okay? Fairly steep. But we can see the way it's sped up over the last 4 years. So it's almost, I would say, tripled in the last 4 years, the speed up of shift and change. And so if we imagine that trajectory is continuing almost on a vertical line between now and 2032. So there's going to be, and there continues to, we're already in it, is this huge shifts. And so this is us on an individual basis, right? We're looking at the detail of our life, but it's also us on a city level, on a county level, on a country level, and on a world level. Just keep taking it out into the next level. So we start to see the shifts and changes. So I don't tend to watch the news because of the many reasons that I won't go into because it might trigger people, but I don't tend to watch the news. But occasionally I will hear something that I feel is relevant, okay? And I remember, I think it was actually the day I was supposed to be chatting with you in December, was that there was the toppling of some regime in some country. The people toppled the regime and kicked out the dictator. And I just went, yes, this is where we're going. Okay. Now, that's all about perspective, because that regime will call those people terrorists and the people will call the regime the dictators. It's all about perspective. But, we can see it from the wider stage that we're moving, and this is what we've been talking about for 20 years. There's going to be more and more governments toppling and regimes toppling and people within governments that are corrupt being found out and called out and kicked out. We're seeing more and more of that. That's going to continue on almost a vertical trajectory. And AI is part of that because it brings more awareness. And the internet is part of that as well, because the more we know and see, the more we can stand up against it. Now, we've got to be careful with that energy of against it, because that's battle energy, which just feeds the battle, and we don't want to do that. So rather than, say, fighting against war, we want to stand for peace. We want to turn things into the positive and into the light. But the main thing that's toppling is the dictatorship, the obscene control, the obscene amount of corruption. This is what's falling away, because this isn't the light. All right. As we get more into the light, we see that kind of behavior more and more, and it falls away. And it's an example I've used before. This started in the 60s. And it's been gently moving up, and I remember in the 80s and the 90s, and again then in the noughties, there was a big increase of awareness of abuse and famous people being caught out and found out, and there was a huge shift to cleaning up the amount of abuse on the planet. Now, people have said, I can't believe all this is happening. And it's like, it's always happened. but it was hidden. And now it's coming to light so that it doesn't happen anymore. And of course, it'll take some time for that to fully work through. But we saw that in terms of abuse and sexual abuse and that kind of thing. But we also saw it with financial institutions, the amount of stuff that was going on behind the scenes in the 70s, 80s, 90s. The financial collapse of 2007-8 was part of, we can't have these kind of systems in place. So we've been moving towards this time, but as I said, now in this last 7 years, it's ramping up. So where are we meant to be by 2032? Are we supposed to be living in utopia? No, that whole completion, nothing's ever completed anyway, but it'll carry on for decades. But the main turning things around has been in this 20-year period, a build up to it, and then this big turnaround for 20 years, and then there will be a stabilization and an increase of what have we grown in. Let's stabilize that and let's continue to increase it. So when you see the news and you see all this is happening and this has happened and that's happened, it's like, just trust that this is part of the process. And it's not just happening with us individually, collectively, it's happening with the planet. So, there's more wildfires, there's more destruction, there's more floods, there's more earthquakes. There's part of the planet is evolving too, where things are out of balance. The ecosystems are out of balance. The financial systems are out of balance. The control systems are out of balance. Everything's being opened up so that it can come into balance. So when we see this stuff, can we trust this is happening for us, for our long-term, secure future? Or can we say, this is just terrible? And many people say this is terrible. And I want to reassure them that it's all happening for you and for the planet and for the cosmos, because as Earth elevates, so do the other planets, so does the universe. Everything's going up. We're not isolated here. There isn't just us. There's a lot of other energies and beings in the universe, and everything is raising its vibration into a higher state of awareness.
Yeah, this raising up of the energy is quite profound, because when we're seeing like a trawler of light just sort of coming through and just kicking up stuff, and we're just processing it, and like you said, it's ramping up, the motor's moving forward. But also, just to double click on what you said about the against energy, it's like we're things that like we're stepping up against, but being wary of even just the against energy. And so I want to sort of leverage that, because you've gone ahead and now it's almost like when I feel from hoping to having, it's almost like preparing for what's coming on the other side. Like, can you speak about the abundance mindset and how like elevating us, like I'm conscious like elevating makes it sound like we're sort of below right now. And I know that, the language needs some improvement in there, but nonetheless sort of working through our stuff to the point where potentially on the other side, stepping into these more elevated places of like an abundance mindset. Can you describe hoping to having? Because even hoping has, for the longest time would have been the most beautiful frequency to carry, is like to have hope. And yet, we're coming into a time where it's not about hoping, it's about having. Can you unpack that for us, please?
Yeah. When I wrote my first book on abundance and on the blue one here, okay, that when I was asking my higher self and the universe for a title, they gave it me, From Hoping to Having. That's what it's called, because the book is about empowerment and about choice and about your own divinity and creativity, your own divine right to create your best life and not have to put up and shut up and just accept, and showing you how to make any changes. So from hoping to having, they gave me those words because they said for many, many millennia, you weren't even allowed to hope. Hope wasn't part of your allowance, your daily allowance kind of thing. You weren't allowed to hope. And then we've been moving into, I'm allowed to hope, I'm allowed to wish, I'm allowed to dream, I'm allowed to aspire. And that's been building since the 60s, we've been moving into this, dream big, dream your world into being fabulous. But all of that starts with hope, all right? So the hope helps you to identify, I hope I can have, I hope I could be, I hope, is the beginnings of the change. But it isn't the end of the change. It's the first, get your ducks in a row, alignment, I hope. The hope gives you the desire. All right. So we've gone from not even desiring, just accepting your lot, put up and shut up. Now I hope for a better relationship. I hope for better health. I hope for more energy. I hope for more peace. I hope for more love. That hoping is hugely important. When you take away someone's hope, you take away everything. Hope is really important. So allow the hope. The more you step into the hope, the more you're identifying what it is that you do want, and you allow it to grow. But hope on its own is not enough to bring it to you. It's the beginnings of it. I hope for, right, so you've hoped for it. What are you doing about it? Oh, I'm not doing anything about it because there's nothing I can do because I don't have the power to do it. I'm waiting for somebody else to do it for me, or somebody else to fix the situation for me. This disempowerment of outside of yourself has been going on a long time. So now we take the hope, we bring the empowerment into it and say, I hope for this. This is my dream, my goal, my wish, my aspiration that I hope for. And now we add in your own power, your own creativity, your own determination, some action plans, some strategies, all right, and some working with the universe in terms of this is the law of attraction in action. I hope. Now I'm aligning with having it. In other words, all parts of me want all parts of it. And I send that out as a clear signal to the universe. Now, we can say this is spiritual, and it is because everything comes from that essence anyway. But actually, psychology will say exactly the same thing. I went to university after I'd been spiritually teaching for nearly 30 years. I went to university at 50 years old and studied psychology. And I was ready for a huge argument because it's not going to align with my spiritual beliefs. And I was shocked because there is something called positive psychology. Segment talks about, and there are so many studies, and we're talking science here. So if you're watching this podcast and you're thinking this spirituality, airy fairy stuff, it's not for me, that's okay. Let's ground it into science, because science says the same thing, that your mind is incredibly positive, that we have a vibration. This is quantum physics, and we send out our positive thoughts. And the more we think positively, the more chance there is of that positivity happening, us actualizing it. Yeah. So there's all sorts of studies, like a group of people taking an exam and they primed, which is to kind of prepare somebody's mind, one group to say you're going to fail and one group to say you're going to pass. They primed them. This was like a test thing. And, in all the negative ones, you're going to fail. The fail figures were through the roof. And with all the positive ones, you're going to pass, you're going to smash it, they were through the roof. And there's lots of studies like that, loads and loads and loads. So basically what I'm saying is, whether you come at it from the spiritual perspective or the science perspective, there is evidence everywhere that the power of your mind to create your reality is down to your positive thinking. So hope is that positive thinking. I hope. Now I want to put some meat on the bones and come in with some action for it. And action is important. And that action might be I send out a prayer. I send out positive thinking. Sometimes that's enough. But mostly it's not. And this is one of the things I teach. I teach real grounded stuff. It's like, you want a new job, you put it out. So are you applying? Have you updated your resume? What's the action plan? It's not, you're not going to find, it's not impossible. Sometimes your boss might just walk up to you and say, we've got this opening and we'd love you for it. And you go, oh my God, that was like a miracle. It just happened. I didn't even have to apply. That kind of stuff happens sometimes, but it's rare. So what's the action? If I'm in debt up to my neck and my dream is to be debt free and to be financially free, what's my action plan to get out of debt? All right. And we need to have the action as well. And then there's inspired action. So there's these different elements. Okay. But moving from the hoping to the having takes these steps of, I'm in charge of my life. I've got my hope, my dream, my wish. And now I've got my action plan. I'm going to step into my creativity. I'm going to step into my positive mindset. And I'm going to align with that, then is going to find me and I'm going to find it. We're going to be like magnets coming together. And it comes from that positive mindset. So my workshop's called the abundance mindset, and I called it that for a reason rather than positive mindset. You know, we want to step into abundance, and many people think of abundance as money. That's the first, you say to somebody you're abundant, the first thing they think of is dollars, wealth. You know, I'm wealthy. That's one element. Can you be abundant in your health, in your energy? Can you be abundant in your loving connections? Can you be abundant in your joy? Can you be abundant in, you know, in every area, right? It's just the abundance mindset. And what people don't realize is that it's almost impossible to be abundant in one area and poverty stricken in another area. Because abundance is an energy that's within you and your mind. So I can say, right, I want to be abundant with money, but I haven't got any time. I'm time poor and my health is terrible and I've got no love, but I'm going to focus on money. So what we're doing is we're kind of cancelling out the desire on the one area because it's not in alignment with the others. We're either lined up with it or we're not. So let's get into the abundance mindset, and within that, yes, it might be the job or the money or the love that I want or the new home or the right, whatever it is. But we want to say the energy of abundance flows into everything. So I allow and surrender into it, and it comes from that positive mindset. And there is a knowing, and there's your trust. There's your solar plexus stuff that we've been working on. There's your empowerment. There's your joy. I deserve joy and I have hope for more joy. And that might be a joyous relationship or a joyous job or a joyous huge amount of money in my bank account. Wherever the joy is, we're stepping into it and we're doing it from trust. So now we can move into the heart and we're connecting in with the heart with all of this energy. So now we're abundant and we are in the flow because the heart is in the flow. So we're in that flow now. And this is what I teach people. And I try to do it through my YouTube readings. And many people will say, you know, this has empowered me. I have felt so much more empowered from watching your readings because I don't tell you what to do. Because that's disempowering. I tell you what the energies are. And I suggest how you can harness them in your own circumstances. But I'm giving you guidance on how you push it forward. And so that's what we're doing. And then since I saw you last time, they said to me, you're writing another book this year. And I was like, oh, shut up. When have I got the time to do that? And then literally it was after I saw you, I think, I got fully booked up until the end of July. And I was guided to close my bookings for a little while now, okay, because it had been full on. And so I closed my my calendar to bookings from the 1st of July. And I literally got from the end of July, but I closed it in May. So I was booked up until sort of August. And then, yeah, as I was coming towards the end of those clients, finishing off the last few clients, they said, right, now is the time to write the book. And I'm like, right, well, we write in this time. So that first book was From Hoping to Having to Create Your Best Life, the 3 R's to Create Your Best Life. And they said, we're still on the same theme, from hoping to having, but now we're going to really focus on wealth and success. Because the first book went into every area of life, a little bit about everything. And then what they want me to do, they said, is to do a series of these books where I go into more depth in different areas. So this one then, the golden book, is the formula to wealth and success. So there was a little bit of that in the first book, but there's also mainly around boundaries and empowerment and creativity and knowing who you are. This one, like, let's go into the detail then. If you want to get into wealth, you want to get into success in your career or successful life, successful relationships, but that energy, now there's detail. There's a whole book just on those areas. And it went whoosh. I wrote it in 3 weeks, like I usually do, because they channeled it. And then about another 3 weeks, I mean, they gave it me like middle of July, write the next book, and it was published 31st of August. And, this is just ridiculous. This is the way I write. I'll write for 15, 18 hours a day because I'm channeling it direct from the higher realms, from a place of love. And they're saying, it's your time. You have the bank of the universe. You have access to this abundance. You just need to know how to tap into it. So the book is the formula. It actually says step A, step B, step C. This is what you do. And great, that went berserk from 31st of August until Christmas. It's sold so many, and they said 2025 there'll be another one, and this one might be on health, I don't know what yet, or it might be on loving connections, I don't know, they'll tell me at the time. It'll just come up, to do another one now. But it's always about showing you your power, your choices, your ability to manifest and create the abundance in the areas that you want, but understanding that to be abundant in one area and poor in another area is a misalignment. We need to start being a little bit more, let's use the word greedy, because we have this perception if we ask for too much it's greedy, right? Let's take the word greedy and run with it and say, okay, can greedy be good? Who says I can't have more than? Where did that come from? And we'll go back thousands of years. It'll come from kings, and it'll come from the church and religion and suppression. That's where it comes from. But you say to a king, you can't have more. Would they say okay then? No, they wouldn't. You say to anybody who's in a position of power, you're limited, you can't have more than, because that's greedy. Nobody in a position of power will accept that, would they? So it's saying, right, if you said to God, generally we think of God, goddess, all that is, as the most powerful being in the universe. Say to God, no, you can't have any more than that. That's greedy. You just can't imagine it. It doesn't compute, right? So what we're doing is we're learning that we are powerful. So this limited thing that asking for more is greedy, is bad, is wrong, is just rubbish. Let's take that out and throw it in the garbage. Throw it in the bin. It's irrelevant. There are no limits. We are unlimited. Stop seeing it as bad, and allow yourself to open up to let it be whatever it is. And sometimes we need stepping stones to that because our mind can't compute. So we go, okay, well, what can it compute? If you're on 30 grand a year and you're struggling, because it all depends, again, on perspective. Where do you live? What are your housing costs? What are the running costs? 30 grand in one country, you'll be loaded. 30 grand in another country, like Switzerland, wouldn't touch the sides. Like Vancouver wouldn't touch the sides. There are some places that are much more expensive. So it's all relative. But it's saying, if I'm on 30 grand and I want to be more comfortable, in my head, I might say, I would like to go to 50 grand. Right, there's my hope. Now we're going to take some action to step into it. When we get to the 50 grand, can we go up to 75 or 100? We don't have to do it stepping stones. You can just say, I want 1 million. But most people's brains can't align with that. So do it stepping stones then. But basically, we're in this energy to move from hoping to having. So learning that we're allowed more, that the only person who's denying you is you. The only person who says it's not allowed is you, with your conditioning, your programming generationally, and just to say, yeah, but that was then, this is 2025. This is the year of light. I can be into and have anything. I'm unlimited.
Hey there, inspired souls. Join in on the conversation in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. What are your biggest takeaways from today's episode? And as you can tell, I pay attention to all the comments. Last time she was on, you asked a bunch of questions. I asked some of them in today's podcast. So leave any comments you have for Julie in the comments below, and I'd be honored to ask them on your behalf the next time she's on as well. So join in on the conversation. I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Back to Julie in today's episode. There seems to be like a tidying up of the energies somewhat as well, because there's the law of attraction, but then there's also it seems like at some point, law of attraction needs to click into law of resonance as well. And I'd love to get you to tidy that up in our minds for us as well, because if we shine the light on hope for long enough, this sounds almost sacrilegious for me to say it this way, because hope is actually one of my favorite words. And I can explain why, but I don't want to digress the conversation. But in the frequency of hope, there's also hope is looking at it from the bottom up with somewhat of a sense of lack. right? It's like I'm hoping. It's like I don't have it, so
I
I
don't
can
have it
only
now. Yeah.
hope, right? And so one of the interesting things I hear when, especially in coaching, I hear people say, "Oh, I want this," and actually, all I hear now, it's like my brain doesn't actually hear the word "want" anymore. It just says, I just hear like it's subbed out for lack. I'm wanting, and the universe is just going to give you more and more wanting. You're going to be left wanting in so many ways because that's the resonance that you're putting out.
Yes.
Whereas having is actually quite profound in light of that, right? Because now it's almost like I'm having, like, I have this, I have this, I have this. And even if you don't, but therein lies, there's a couple of nuances that need to get cleaned up, like the hope and the lack, but yet hope is so beautiful. And then also having when you don't actually have, and then how do you get there? So maybe that's the framework in this. I don't know, like there's a few questions in there. Can you feel them?
Yeah, I can. Yeah. The resonance is everything's part of the law of attraction. All right. We can come up with a million different spiritual laws, look, cause and effect, resonance, balance, all sorts but they're all part of the law of attraction is all there is really. Everything is an attraction to itself. So the resonance is the vibrational match. The law of resonance is the vibrational match. So this is where we talk about alignment. Are you aligned? Are you a vibrational match to that thing that you hope for? And so you start off that generally you're not, which is why it's a hope. It's coming from a place of lack. I don't have that and I wish I did. So I'm hoping for it. So we don't need to beat up the fact that I'm lacking in this. If I'm single and I want love, let's just acknowledge there's a lack of love romantically. So we say, okay, so I've got to hope that I meet my life partner. All right. So we recognize that and then we go into the resonance of it, which is the vibrational match to it. So am I a match to the love that I seek? So first of all, everything comes from within. So do I love myself? If I want my partner to see me, recognize me, trust me, honor me, be loyal to me, am I being all of those things to me now? Am I a resonant match to it? Am I aligned? Okay, so they're all kind of the same thing. So then we recognize that perhaps I don't trust myself enough or I don't respect myself enough. And we might recognize that by seeing that our past relationships, there was a lack of respect or there was a lack of love. That was mirroring back to you your own lack of respect for self. So go, okay, then I don't want to repeat that. So I need to then build up my own sense of love and respect. And when it's at a level that feels really right and comfortable, that's when I will be an automatic match then in resonance with a loving relationship. But within that are many components. So I've probably been hurt before. Do I need to clean up any of that? Is there any belief that I'll get hurt again? Because that's the resonance then, that love equals pain. And I need to do a bit of healing and releasing on that in order to be able to be free of the past to move into my future. So the law of resonance is a vibrational match. Does it resonate? Does it feel good? Yeah, we think of the word resonate. That resonates for me. It feels right. So does it feel right? So if I think about a job that I want, do I resonate with it? And many times, and this is why I go into detail in the book, part of me does, part of me doesn't. All right. And so this is where we recognize it and say, okay, let's say, for example, I want that. I would like to earn $100,000. I want to be in six figures. Okay. And that's the wish. That's the hope. Right. And I'm resonating on that vibrational match with 100 grand a year. And then we say, okay, is there any part of you that doesn't want that? And that might sound like a stupid question. Well, of course I want it. And say, okay, but really feel into it. Really feel into the resonance with it. Do you feel that you're good enough for it? That you're ready for it? That you're worthy of it? That you deserve it? Do you feel that there's any kind of sacrifice that might come with that? That if I'm earning six figures, I won't have time for my family? Right. So basically, those are examples. They're just a few examples of part of me wants it, but part of me is not a vibrational match to it yet. Doesn't mean that we won't get there, but we're going to have to get all our ducks in a row where all of me wants all of it. And then it's a match. Okay, so that's where the law of resonance comes in. But if we can kind of say whether it's this, I remember reading a book, Shed a Little Light on the Spiritual Laws, and there was all these different laws. Great book, back in the day, about 25 years ago. And And I think there were about 35 laws that were listed, cause and effect, resonance, blah, blah, blah. And when I started writing my From Hope into Having book, and I'm talking to my team and direct to source, they said there's just 2 laws. There's just 2. And that's what I state in my book. That's why I take my direction straight from above. And they say there are 2. Everything, all those other ones come into one of these 2. There's the law of free will, and there's the law of attraction. That's it. Everything absolutely is free will, and there is no real sense of right or wrong. That's man's judgment based on perspective, based on history, based on all sorts of things. There is pure free will. Everybody has it. And then there is the law of attraction. So within the law of attraction is the law of resonance. If I don't resonate with it, I'm not going to attract it to me because I'm not a match to it. There is the law of cause and effect, because the law of attraction is what I put out comes back, cause and effect. They're all within that. So if we see the law of attraction as somewhat a little bit bigger, like the umbrella, and say it all ties in to my thinking, my vibration, my resonance, my alignment, my self-belief, my positive mind, my abundance mindset. That's where it comes into. So we're looking at all these different areas. So when I spend the day, I'm going to London to teach for the day. I'm going to Orlando to teach my first time teaching in America. I taught in Canada a couple of years ago, and now I'm going to America. I will spend the day with people, helping them to identify where they're not in resonance, where they're not in alignment, where the mindset is offline. And we need to do a bit of clearing the cache, and we need to do a little bit of getting it into alignment. And then we realign with that hope, which we move then into the having, which is the receiving. And that's what we want it to do. And I was saying, I did a video actually a couple of days ago, went live this weekend, called, now there's that going to come to me, A Way Will Be Found. Okay, that there is this resonance where things kind of they're offline, and we need to get them back online. And a way will be found is that pure self-belief of I don't have the answers, but they will come. And I was saying within that video that once you align with something, even if it hasn't happened yet, you're already a vibrational match to it. So I was using the example of, let's say that somebody books onto a place on my workshop, and they book it now in January, even though the workshop isn't until May. They're already aligning now in advance with that. And I was trying to explain that, saying, like, many of you will think that after May, when I come and see Julie Poole, I'll be on an alignment with abundance. And yes, that's true. But the minute you book it, the minute that you put your energy into this is happening, I'm going, you're already a vibrational match. So it's got 4 months, because I'm saying this in January, it's got 4 months to percolate and grow before the actual event. And it's one of the questions I'm going to ask people when they come. Have you noticed that since you booked, things are already falling into place in terms of your abundance? Because it does.
I love the slipperiness of that as well, because then also the abundance of, like, it's not just contained to this moment that we're here experiencing. It's like it's abundant, yeah. Like, because one of the drop-ins I had in a meditation at some point was abundance, and this is just me being Indian and weird and being in a meditation. I shouldn't preface it like that, but anyway, it was like the A is kind of like non, and then bund in Hindi and Punjabi means like to be closed, to be bound, right? They have the same etymology. Bund means bound, and to dance. And so it's like to not be bound and to dance, right? It was like this drop-in around abundance, and I was in a very yogic kind of meditative state. And it was just like, bro, and I hear that in what you're saying. It's like, it's everything. It's always, and it's not just Success and Wealth, even though that is the most recent book that you wrote. One of the questions we got last time you were on the podcast that echoed through the comments section actually is people wanted to know how to cultivate their connection to their source, their guides and stuff like that. So I thought it was a worthy question to ask you in particular in today's conversation. For those, you probably get that question a bit, I imagine. And for those that are interested in building their own connection to their guides, to their spirit, however you want to articulate that, how do they go about, or what do you say to those people?
Okay, that's so interesting. That totally resonated with me, because as soon as you said that, I've got my spiritual team saying that's the next book. All right, from hoping to having the formula to, connection with your spiritual self. I don't know what the title's going to be, but it's going to be
I'm
on
on
that
it.
subject. All
Oh,
right, that's what I've got to focus on next. So that's interesting. Thank you. All right, so how to? All right, so there's all these different elements, all right? So think about anything that you're trying to create in abundance. We're talking about spiritual connection here as a place of abundance. That there's many ingredients in the pot, okay? Now, if you're lacking one of the ingredients, let's say you're making a dish. I'm not a cook, so, bear with me. If you put the wrong ingredients in, it either is yucky, or it ends up in the bin, or sometimes it's a bit of a miracle and it's even better because you've just winged it, but basically there's lots of elements that come into it. And so the solar plexus, that is the center of our soul, is the solar plexus and the heart. So we're already kind of in the soul energy. The soul is bigger than you. When people talk about the aura, the energy field, and we kind of imagine it around us about 5 feet all around us, like an egg, right? And that kind of is the way it looks, because I see energy. That is the soul. We are inside the soul, not the soul inside of us. But the center of the soul is the heart solar plexus. And we've just been discussing what they do. So the solar plexus, trust. It is empowerment. It is joy. And the heart, which is love, right? We connect all of that up. So the first ingredient, if you like, is trust. All right. How can I connect with my soul if I don't trust what I'm getting? If I don't trust what my feelings are? My feelings are my feedback mechanism from my soul, okay? And from my inner being and my emotional body and mental body. But let's say you sit and meditate and you're asking for guidance and you're asking for light or energy, which is generally when I meditate, the first thing I do is I'm asking for light and energy and love, to be in oneness and to be in that oneness with myself and with source and with the universe. And then within that energy, I ask, is there anything I need to know, anything that's going to help me? I might be sending up my hopes, my prayers, my wishes, my dreams. And then I'm listening to what I'm getting, what I'm receiving. So in that moment, I might not get anything, but I'm trusting that my answers will come. If I'm asking, should I apply for that job? Or like I've been recently asking, I know I'm going to America to teach. Where do you want me to go? Right? Do you want me in Houston or Boston, or where do you want me? And I'm listening to the answers, and then I allow it to come. So I'm trusting. Now, many of you think that the answers will come like a voice in your head, Julie, go to Orlando. No, it doesn't happen like that. It's this, you feel into it, and one feels right and one feels wrong. Resonance, all right? It feels that's the answer, okay? So we trust the answer. So when we're trying to connect, first of all, it's to understand you are powerful, you are creator, you are source energy, you have soul, you have spirit, and you have all of that divinity within you, and you are not alone. All right, because if I'm trying to talk, who am I talking to if I don't believe there's anybody there? That's straight away, And you don't have to believe that anybody's there. This is the Buddhist way. They don't believe in anything outside of yourself. Everything is within you. And I agree, I concur. The universe is actually within you, and all the answers are within you. You're just tapping into it. All right. But yes, outside of you is the universe, but it's all we're all one anyway. So to connect is listening. I've been connecting since I was a child. Okay. So you might say, well, it's easy for you. You've been doing it a long time. Every single one of us is born spiritually awake. We haven't been here long. We just come from spirit. We are still very aware of spirit. Okay. It takes a bit of time for us to forget that. Okay. But if you look at any child, any toddler, they are just full of the excitement of life. Big eyes, how exciting. Life's an adventure. I love everybody and everything's exciting and everything's wonderful. Children are highly intuitive. Let's use different words. Psychic frightens people. I don't want to see dead people. Oh my God, I'd freak out. I don't like seeing dead people either. Okay, not that anything's dead, but we can discern and decide what we want to see and connect with. So you decide, you're in charge. This is your insight and your sight. Okay, so you decide. So you start with yourself. I choose to listen to my gut. My gut, my intuition, my hunch. We've used these words for 8 years, yeah? The hunch, I watch a lot of detective, like crime stuff. I love all that stuff. Who done it? Get the bad guy. I love all that stuff. But you see the detectives, I've got a hunch. It's like, yes, you're using your intuition, mate. That's what you're doing, right? You're listening to the voice inside your head that says, try this, test that, that's off, that's a lie. I can feel the truth into that. I'm resonating with that's a lie or that's the truth. You're already intuitive. Each and every one of you is already psychic. But let's change the name psychic because that freaks you out, and feel will block it. We avoid what we're frightened of. So change the word psychic to intuitive or strongly insight. All right, whatever word you're comfortable with, that's the word you resonate with. I have insight and I'm listening to it, and when I listen to it, funnily enough, life gets easier and life gets better, and it does. Okay, so if you imagine that you had a whole spiritual team around you, that you have direct access straight to source, all of which is true and which you do, and you are able to ask them anything at any time, which is the easiest path for me, which is the best path for me, because easy and best are not necessarily the same thing. It depends what you're asking for, right? And that they are giving you the answers. You don't hear it with your ears. It pops into your mind as an idea that you think is yours, okay? But you've aligned with the answers are coming to me, so the answers come.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. That is very well received. I could already feel it in the field by everybody that's tuning in. Thank you so much for sharing that. One of the other interesting pieces in there is you've also mentioned like bleed through across simultaneous lifetimes in the past as well. I'd love to double click on that a little bit, because for some people tuning in, it was, how do I even become aware of my multidimensional self? And I imagine the answer is probably going to be somewhat connected to what you just gave.
Yeah, it can be, but it can also interfere. I mean, remembering that as we are evolving at the moment into the heart center, okay, so are our past life selves in a kind of less advanced way. If you imagine that you could go back and talk to the you of 100 lifetimes ago, and they would see you as a master, as a god. They would see you as, oh my God, look what you know, look what you can do, look what you've achieved. I aspire to be you. All right. So they would see you as this master. And this is what we get a lot when we are connecting with higher realms. They call me master often. And I'm just like, shut up. I'm not a master. In my dreams, I aspire to be, but I'm not there yet. But Spirit will say, oh, yeah, but we're talking to you now and also your future self. You are a master, and it's like, right, okay. So we are evolving into this mastery of life and ourselves, and we're a work in progress. But there's also many past lives of us who are also evolving. So they're healing. If we see... Now we can start getting a bit complicated, but they're saying throw it in because some of you know more than others. Within the past lives and within the current lives, we also have multidimensional soul energies. Our soul can be living 10 different lives at the same time. Okay, so we can start, but basically all of them, all aspects of you are evolving and are healing. Now, what we don't want is 100-year lifetime ago me is happening to work through some issues there that I'm being affected by in this life in 2025. I don't want that. That's not going to be helpful for me now. So if we just recognize that there are many aspects of ourself evolving simultaneously, healing and growing and stretching and evolving. I've already said that word. At the same time, what I tend to find is useful, and I'm just listening to my team, and they're saying, just allow it to be everything, every aspect of you becomes all of who you are, and that all of who you are is divine. And every part of you that's evolving is doing so at the right time, the right speed, within their capacity. I don't want to say limitation, but within their capacity of their energy at the time. So if we said that right now, me in this lifetime has an energy vibration of 5,000, the me of several lifetimes ago might have an energy vibration of 1,000. So we're not vibrating on the same level because I've evolved, but I wouldn't be where I am now without that me from before. So we don't want to judge as less than. We want to say thank you for all the work you did that brought me to who I am. And we can take that into more direct in this lifetime. Like younger me, 20-year-old me in this lifetime, I'd evolved as far as she could, but compared with where I am now at 61, and it's the same for all of us. And we can look back at our younger self, and many times we judge ourselves as failing or lacking or a mess. It's like we were doing the best we could with the tools we had at the time. Let's embrace our younger self and be proud of them, because through them we become who we are now. And then kind of take that from this lifetime and spread it across multiple lifetimes and say, this is pure unconditional love. We accept all of ourselves across all dimensions, space and time, as being exactly where they are, doing the best that they possibly could. And we send love out. But equally, we could put some boundaries down. So we can say, I am sending love to all of my other aspects of self. Huge love, pride and respect. Thank you so much for everything. But anything of that does not serve me now, I allow to be released, so it doesn't bleed through into who I am now. It's one of the reasons that we don't remember past lives. And those that do, and there are a handful of people on the planet that do, and there's been many books written about them and accurate history stuff that they know places. Hugely challenging for them, and I recall a story they're giving me about a child, 5 or 6 year old boy, who was looking for his missing wife and children and couldn't connect with his mum and dad in this lifetime because all he could remember clearly his wife and his children. And they took him, because he was so obsessed with it, they took him to the village he wanted to go to, and there he found them. But it really messes with this life when it's too much bleed through. So we do need that separation. It's helpful. But if we can take the growth with us and the learning and the evolving, along with, there will be some challenges as well. There will be some karma. There will be things that need balanced out. But my advice to you would be, they're saying change the word advice. Don't give advice. Never give advice. My suggestion to you would be to just simply, with your pure free will, from a place of loving in the heart, to say, all that does not serve me across all space and dimensions, I release you to the light. And that will suffice.
You mentioned the word allow, and there seems to be, across multiple different spiritual teachers from lots of different walks in life at this present moment in time, it seems to be a word that keeps bubbling up to the surface. I just wanted to double click on it for a second. There's no question there. There's just a moment to put it like a deer in headlights and allow you to sort of run through it or run with it. I'm not sure.
Yeah, allow. It's such an important word. I did a whole chapter on it in my book, allowing. Can we allow? It's when we let go, when we surrender, when we accept. Allowing and accepting, similar, not quite the same, but on the same vibrational match, certainly. Can I allow somebody to treat me badly? Let's use that as an example. Okay, because that brings up many, many different questions. Can I allow it? The answer is yes, because you can't control it. You can't control another. You can't control somebody else's behavior. So I can't stop it. And if I try and stop it, I disallow it, then I will have all sorts of reactions, responses within my body, right? If we allow, let's say somebody's shouting at me and I just stand there and I just allow, I'm not resisting. But equally, I'm not giving them permission to say this is okay, but I'm allowing them to do what they need to do, or I allow myself to walk away, or I allow myself to respond. It's allowing is to honor what is around you without resisting. Now, I'm hearing lots of questions about this. Why would you allow somebody to treat you badly? What it's doing is you're removing judgment, all right? You're sort of saying, let's say somebody is kicking off in front of you and it might be absolutely nothing to do with you. They're having a bad day. You happen to be in the firing line. This is something we do with loved ones quite a lot, yeah? Husband, wife's had a bad day at work. They come home, they're kicking off and you're the kind of verbal or emotional punch bag. And it's kind of, right, you're clearly having a bad day. I'm going to remove myself at this point, okay? But I'm allowing you to go and kick off in the garden, go and kick off at the wall. I'm allowing you to feel and do whatever you're doing. But at the same time, I'm going to protect myself and my own energy. But I'm not trying to stop you. I'm allowing you to be in that space because I'm not your keeper. I'm not in charge of you. I'm not responsible for you. So I can't change it. Allowing is saying, I choose to let go of trying to change this. I allow it to be what it is. That doesn't mean to say that I have to stand there and take it. It's an energy that's coming at me and I can absolutely allow myself to move away from that energy. So allowing, I've just been sacked from my job. And I can resist, I can rail, I can fight. I'm not allowing it to be what it is. If I just let go and allow, I've been sacked. Okay, that job's clearly not for me anymore. I'll find something else. We're allowing is this acceptance of what is, to be what it is. But at the same time, making sure that you are honoring what you're feeling, what you're experiencing. Sometimes when somebody is kicking off, I can literally sit there without it affecting me in any way, shape or form. And I will use the word like, wow, somebody's having a very bad day kind of thing. Okay. But I'm not taking it personally. The energy isn't impacting me. I just see them venting and I see that clearly they need to vent. And in a way, I feel honoured that they feel safe enough with me to be able to vent. That's one option, one perspective. The other option and perspective, of which there are many, would be like, you're attacking me and I'm going to fight back and I'm going to attack back. And it's like, right, that's not allowing it to be what it is. Allowing is kind of honouring what is. Honouring what is. You're having a bad day, you're venting. I honour that. Okay, but I don't necessarily have to stand in front of it. And if it was affecting my energy and I could feel this blast of anger coming at me and it was impacting my energy, I would remove myself from the space. Yeah.
It's interesting. I'm kind of visualizing this sort of, I don't know if the reference of metaphor of Krav Maga means anything to people, but it's like in Krav Maga, they try to, they try to encourage you to use your attacker's body weight and momentum kind of against them, right? So when I hear the word allow, it's almost like if someone's carrying on at you, you're almost just allowing them to, just topple over into their own heap of mess somewhere as well. Whereas acceptance has this interesting kind of frequency where it's like, oh, I can see that's happening over there. I've still got like some micro resistance in there where it's like I'm accepting that that's happening over there. But and it's interesting. It's moments like this where I kind of feel like maybe the energy is rising around the bottom because it's like even just the nuances between words are becoming hyper magnified and apparent, even if it's just in conversations and like this. It's like, yeah, acceptance has this frequency of micro resistance, whereas allowance has this very wu wei kind of energy around it as well, which is just, yeah, it's just, and you don't get embroiled in the energy at all. Whereas if you're accepting something, you are still somewhat embroiled in the energy, even though if it's just a microdose of it. Does that make sense where I'm coming from?
Yeah, it's the way that people tend to think. They associate the word accept with it's okay, and it's not necessarily. Acceptance doesn't mean it's okay. So, somebody's shouting at me, I can be in acceptance that you're shouting, doesn't mean it's okay. So acceptance and allowing, doesn't necessarily mean to say that I don't. Well, I try not to have judgment about it. You're wrong. You shouldn't be doing that. That's not. You can say it's okay to say it's not okay for me. This is not pleasant for me to be in the middle of, and so it depends if it's impacting me or not. If true acceptance, nothing that you do can impact me. That's true. All right, and that is incredible enlightenment, and I'm not there yet. So if somebody starts shouting at me, it probably will impact my energy. If I totally go into oneness and just send that person love, that's fabulous. I'm not there yet, and most of us aren't. So we need to then remove ourselves from that situation, but we can still allow that they're having an event. We can allow and accept that they need to, for them, whatever's going on for them, this is the space they're in. We're allowing them the space they're in, because I'm not their parent. I'm not their controller. I can't control what they're doing. I need to just allow them to be them, and I allow me to be me, and I will follow my instincts of what I need to do. We were saying earlier about, this whole thing about intuition and how does it happen? And I said, we're all born with this instinct and intuition. And sometimes you watch a child when there's some upset in the room. Some children will run out of the room, and some children will run towards the upset and want to hug them. They want to put love into the upset. Yeah, that's our natural state of being. But the child is following its instincts. And that is following the intuition. Now, for most of us, we start to close that down 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. We lose trust in it. And actually, the reason that most of us close it down is actually fear-based. Most children go to school and they're taught that anything they cannot see, taste or touch is magic and is illusion and is rubbish and is false or is dangerous. Church as well, it's the devil's work, it's your imagination. They're told that this is wrong and bad, and so children will then close it down because they believe it's bad. And so that's why we shut it down. Once we give ourselves permission, it's not bad, it's actually who we are, it opens back up. All you've got to do is encourage it and feed it. And feed it with meditation, or feed it with reading, watching inspired podcasts like this. Allow yourself to open it up. It's always there. It never goes anywhere. It's just dormant because fear has said that is wrong, and you're crazy because you're seeing things that we can't see. So you're the odd one out. Well, actually, we can all see it if we choose to. So I just choose to, and you choose not to. As soon as you choose that you want to change that and you want to see, you'll see. Doesn't mean to say you have to see dead people. This is the thing, mediumship, which is to connect with spirit in a different dimension that might look like a white ghost or might look like your granny clearly in front of you, frightens people. And so, okay, that's okay. I made the decision when I was about 15 that I didn't want to see spirit, but I was perfectly happy to see Jesus, to talk to my angels, to see light and energy and vibration, and to see the energy around flowers and plants, all the things that for me at the time was safe. But I didn't want to see some, passed on person standing at the foot of my bed. So I just said, no, I don't want to see that, but I do want to see that. And we can do that. You can choose, you can discern your free will. Okay, so the allowing is free will, isn't it? We all have free will. I can't disallow you to do anything because that's imposing my will on you. Yeah, and equally, you can't impose anything on me. I have free will. And the amount of times when I'm doing readings that the freedom card will come up and the energy is like, you need to free yourself. The thing is, you need to understand you're already free. It's your mind that tells you you're not. And I made a comment on one reading. There was so many comments about it in the comment section when I said, unless you happen to be watching me from prison, or you happen to actually be a slave and enslaved in this lifetime, which is highly unlikely that you would be watching me if you're in one of those situations. So I would suggest that the majority of you are not imprisoned, are not unfree. You just think you are. I will have people saying, I can't leave my job, I can't leave my husband, I can't do this, I can't do that. They feel trapped. And I want you to have choice. It's not for me to tell you what to do or not to do. You have free will. You do whatever you want to do. But I want to be able to show you there are other ways and other paths if you choose to align with them. Freedom.
There's so much landing all at once. as you're sharing that, I know I meant to ask a question. The key question, as I'm conscious of the time that we do have left in this podcast, I guess, from there is, allowing free will, the awareness of these two laws, you traveling around, stepping into, more of this law of attraction. It seems to be there's quite a bit coming up at this particular time, 2025. So we started the conversation there. Marching orders, inspiration for those that are feeling into Julie at this particular time for what's coming up. We've talked quite a bit about the energy. Perhaps you can give a bit of an energy update and an insight into how best for us at large. I know you do incredible readings. I can't rave about them enough. They leave a profound impact on me every single time I tune in. And my favorite thing about them is just how inspiring they are. So I will link when this episode comes out. You did a fabulous bunch at the beginning of this particular year as well. So I'll link them all into the show notes below as well for each individual. You went by the sun signs. But maybe at large, you can give like a collective insight into 2025, what's shifting, what's coming up, and how best for us as a collective potentially to navigate it as we round out today's episode.
Okay, so 2025 is more of the same, but on a higher vibrational level. So the white coat and the mud splatters kind of thing will continue, because each time that we are aware, we're becoming more aware, we're seeing more, we're kind of getting the aha moments and like, wow, I never, how did I not see that before? You weren't ready to see it. There wasn't enough light to see it. Now you can see it. So now you have choice. You have empowerment to ignore it, which is okay, or to sort it, right? So it's about elevating our lives, our hearts, our energies. It's all about elevation. So you can use the word more, higher, better. It's however you want to describe it, but we continue to expand and evolve. The difference between this year and last year is there's more light, so we're seeing more. But because we're raising our vibration more into the heart, we're able to deal with or release or whatever we're doing in terms of that growth and expansion in an easier way, that we're more in the flow. We're more, oh, this is easy. That would have been really difficult 2 or 3 years ago, but piece of cake now, right? What's coming through for everybody, for the collective, early January. And it's interesting, we're recording this on the 13th because there's a huge full moon in Cancer today. And this is all about heart, relationships, connections, home. And so any wounds are coming up to be healed, resolved, released, let go, changed, shifted. It can simply be to awareness of, I didn't realize that was as important to me as it is. So now I will value it more. I will prioritize it more. It can simply be that for many of you, kindness is becoming more of a priority. And we love the word kind. We love the word kindness. And we all think it's important. But we haven't necessarily tapped into it as much because of other things like survival and getting through and all the rest of it. So as we elevate, we're moving into being more kind, being more compassionate, being less judgmental. that which is of not of the light is coming up for reckoning. Those with control issues are coming up to see that you cannot truly control. And control comes from a place of fear and insecurity and trying to impose your will on another. That is falling away. So those that struggle with that will find it a challenge because their behavior is being challenged and it's not acceptable. It never was acceptable, but when we're disempowered, we put up and shut up. We're becoming more empowered. That continues. The empowerment is raising. So we are challenging stuff more. That will all continue, but more and more light is coming through. Now, they're telling me May, June, particularly strong. Obviously, we're moving into the summer months there at the northern hemisphere, but it isn't actually about the summer or the sun. It is that the light is going to be increasing as each month goes by. And so each month you start to become aware of more things, including the desire for wanting more. Or to shift and change, big shifts like, I wasn't going to retire for 10 years, but actually I think I'm going to retire this year. I want to, there can be big shifts of beliefs of what I thought I wanted isn't what I wanted, and allow it. We're back in that allowing, all right? So feeling. There's also going to be much more increase in awakening. So people have been awakening more and more, all right? That's been increasing over the years as well. There's going to be a lot more people waking up to their own light, their own power. What else are we going to get in 2025, please? They're showing me AI, and AI obviously is increasing at a rate of knots. And there's a lot of nervousness around it. And like any very powerful tool, it's all about whose hands it's in. Just trust and allow yourself to evolve with these technologies that are coming through more and more. There's going to be more assistance available to us from higher beings of light. So ETs, if you like. Okay, so they're coming through more to assist us. There's going to be continued changes in government structures that we've already discussed about dictatorships, control, abuse, things like that, becoming more and more aware. Everything's being cleaned up, okay? Cleaned up and cleaned out within you on an individual level. And so this is wonderful opportunities. For example, if you've been struggling with quitting any kind of bad habit or wanting to improve, I want to go to the gym every day. I'm going to get fit. I'm going to drop the sugar. We all say it every January and very little changes. When they say 17% of people are still doing that thing by the 17th of January, like most people have stopped it already. It makes it easier. It makes it easier to say, this is the time to tackle that behavior that I've been talking about changing, or this is the time to leave that toxic job. This is the time that I'm going to start that business. This is the energy that's moving through more and more. It's all about elevation, elevating. Okay.
I can't help but notice that things generally happen in 7-year cycles. And yeah, it sort of seems like, 7 in a 20-year window, we're kind of, 2/3 of the way through. And if stuff needs to happen, it kind of needs to happen now, touch wood. So that's very much the frequency that I'm feeling. And yeah, I mean, there was a piece before that I didn't really get to share in the podcast. I'll just take a moment to sort of shed a light on, was just the white coat metaphor and the mud kicking up just continues to keep circling back for me in this conversation as well. And even the conversation around allow, it's like just the amount of resilience. And honestly, this is probably the best way to thank you for your work as well today in today's conversation, Julie, is there's just so much light in the work that you share with us, and it just offers so much perspective. That it just gives so much resilience, like, being able to just recognize, hey, like I switched black coat to white coat and actually I'm just wearing and all this stuff's getting kicked up on me, but that's actually not an issue. I can allow it because check out, like, white coat, all it has to do is go in the wash in a moment as well, so
there's just an example. I've got a white coat that I it's my kind of waterproof, rainproof. I think it's a ski jacket. Not that I ever want to go skiing. I hate the cold. But I've got this white coat, and it goes in the wash more often than anything else I own because it's white. All right. And so, you know, little marks here, there, and everywhere. It's always in the wash. And so they're giving me that as an example that says, look, the more you're aware of stuff, the more you're washing it clean. I don't let that coat get dirtier and dirtier and dirtier. If I was wearing a black coat, probably get in the wash about twice a year. Because I wear a white coat, it's in the wash like every week or two. But it's keeping it clean. It gives you the opportunity to clean things up. And your choice, your options, you don't have to do anything. You can continue to live exactly the way you've lived if that's what you want to do. And if you're happy with that, happy days, crack on. But if you want more and you're in that expansive energy, stop beating yourself up and saying, I'm being greedy and I should be happy with my lot. If your instincts, intuition, soul, heart are saying, I desire more, trust it, listen to it, honor it, go with it, and expand.
Julie Poole. It is always, I can't even begin to confess how much of a treat it is to have you here. Thank you so much for doing this again with us here today. Thank you for your time, your energy. It is always a treat. And honestly, thank you so much for you. There's so much trust, there's so much guidance, there's so much love, there's so much awareness. And also there's this, for those that love your work, love it for a particular reason. Well, maybe I'm speaking on behalf of everybody, but the discernment that you carry for me is second to none, in terms of just there's so much you could be talking about, but every time you take the time to share, it's always above the line. And for me, that really makes a massive difference. So thank you so much for you doing what you do, also the way that you do it. Appreciate you so much.
Kind. Thank you so much. Bless you. Love you too.
Inspired soul, lumen being, you made it through to the end of another incredible podcast. Thank you so much for your inspirations to evolve. To all of you that are inspired to evolve and subscribe to the podcast, a massive thank you for your subscription, your incredible love and support. Everything you see around here is powered and empowered by your subscription to the channel. To all of you that haven't yet subscribed, please do take a moment. As I'm saying the word subscribe, the subscribe button below is lighting up in the colors of the Inspired Evolution, regardless of what device you're on. It's lighting up. Please hit that subscribe button, hit the bell notification icon. It helps everything we're doing, championing love, positivity around the world. Join the movement, help us out through your subscription. On screen now, something we didn't get into today's episode because Julie has actually, the way her powers came online, she had some pretty profound near-death experiences. We go over that in the last episode we had with her about 8 months ago. So feel free to click on that episode now to dive in deeper with Julie. Also some incredible energy updates from Rick Levine, Deborah Silverman on screen to dive deeper. And YouTube has hand selected some episodes for you to continue your inspirations to evolve on screen now to go further with your evolution. So stay inspired, keep evolving onwards, upwards, and inwards, and go on. Take your pick, make your click. I'll see you in the next one. Go on. I'll see you there.